Today we're going to talk about incompatible mods. One of my users asked me, it says, which mods are incompatible with my mods? Now that's not a question I could answer because there are millions of new mods coming out all the time, and it's impossible for one person to keep up with them, even if I did use Nexus, which I don't. So it's not a question that's easily answered, not honestly. But what I can do is I can give you a few guidelines as to what I look out for and the danger areas when it comes to picking new mods. Now, they're right up there at the top of the list are city overhauls. Now, everybody loves to edit the cities and make them look pretty, but some people do it without thought or consideration for others. For example, they'll change the street layout, they'll move buildings about. So when I put, say, a quest character down in the high street, it turns out he's inside a building suddenly because somebody's moved the street. Or you might put a vendor down, suddenly the vendor can't be reached, or the door you need to get to a quest location can't be reached, or the nav mesh is broken because two mods have edited the same location. So none of the MPs can move, they just stood there like statues. These are the kind of issues you commonly see when you're using city overhauls. Now, when I made CUO Breville and all the other CUO city mods, I made a point of trying to show people how they could make these city mods safely. And I did it by looking for the areas in a city that was seldomly used and only editing those areas. That way, you'd only get a conflict with other people that were smart enough to recognise that these areas here were not used and therefore safer to edit than other areas that were used. In which case, it's just two people having the same great idea, But anyhow, it meant most of my mods did not conflict with other mods, even though they were city mods, because I was editing sides of riverbanks, I was editing over a river, literally putting buildings on top of a river on stilts and things like that. And all I did with the rest of it is retexture a few things. So that's how I got around it. But as a general rule, city overhauls are very incompatible. When it comes to MPC overhauls, it wouldn't normally affect most of my mods. The only two that would be affected by it would be Kvatch Aftermath and maybe Origin of the Mages Guild, because they do use at least a couple of default game MPCs. But one of the things I learned from my first two early mods, which was them two, was not to edit in-game stuff. Copy and edit the copy. That way there was never any chance of an incompatibility caused by a conflict by two mods editing the same MPC. But those two early mods, yes, they do have that problem, but only to a small degree. So if you're talking NPC edits and you're not using Kvatch Aftermath or Origin of the Mages Guild, you should be safe. Spells. Now, in Darkroad Grimoire, I use spells. And what I did is I edited the spell file, but not all the supporting stuff below it. So you get like sounds, special effects, scripts. I didn't edit any of those. I just edited this. This will link to all three areas. What I did is I re-linked to areas I'd edited by putting my own stuff there. So I didn't edit any of the ground stuff. But if you've got somebody that edits this and that, it would affect Darkroad Grimoire spells. But only if they edited everything. But if they're going to edit everything, they should really make their spell system unique to their mod and therefore independent and no chance of a conflict. It would be stupid for them to do all that work and then not take that route. So it'd be rare, that conflict, because I've never met a modder that's got the ability to do that doesn't think of these things themselves. Weapons and things like that. These things here don't tend to cause conflicts as a general rule. If I'm using weapons, I tend to make them unique to my mod. If I'm using default game weapons, and I'm just using default game weapons, anything that edits the default game weapon would improve my mod as well. So in that case, that edit would appear in my mod freely, and anything that's unique to my mod would not be editable by any other mod because it'd be unique, so you should be safe there as well. There's quite a few areas, like landscapes and locations, where people you get a landscape mod. It makes things pretty, adds trees and stuff. That's another like city overhaul type thing that can produce an incompatibility. Really, you have to make mods for those mods. Like unique landscapes. If you want a city, you want to like edit something in a unique landscape, You have to make it specifically for unique landscape or make a patch. But as a general rule, these mods put trees and stuff all over the place. You put your house down and your nice little door and your garden, and then you go to it in game with unique landscapes installed, and suddenly there's a tree in front of your door that wasn't there before. So they do cause a few problems. But editing any location, right, will run the risk of a conflict. But when you edit everything, it's a bigger risk. So the secret is again to edit someplace you know players will never go, where modders will never consider. I, for example, right, in Skyrim, put a castle on top of a mountain peak. You never saw that mod because I never released it, right? I just ran out of ideas so I got to the end. But the location was never going to be used by anybody else. It was a guaranteed no conflict location because nobody would think of messing about on top of a peak with a castle of that size. So again, picking locations people are never going to touch is how you make a compatible mod. Editing everything is guaranteed to create a conflict. If you're going to, make quest mods and things like that, you're going to need to use cities heavily. So again, if you're talking quest mods, cities are kind of important not to be screwed up. If you're using like overhauls for landscapes and cities, you're in a high risk category straight away. There's no doubt about it, you are. If you're doing a general game overhaul, providing it isn't too aggressive in the way it works, most overhauls should be able to run with being completely compatible with my mods because of the way I work. The only rule I'd add is CUO, the serial upgrade overhaul, that's the actual main file that does all the overhauling, works by editing the same level list as any other overhaul. It's just that I chose to edit very few of them, right? So I injected my level list into the default game ones without actually affecting most of the default game ones. But it made it a very compatible overhaul, but it still works the same way as every other overhaul. So don't run that with any other overhaul that edits everything, right? Just pick one. Don't try to run both at the same time. That would be a mistake. Anyway, that's a few guidelines for you. As a general rule, my mods are made to be compatible, and I learnt the hard way how to make them compatible. Kavachi Aftermath and Origin of the Mages Guild were the first two mods I made, and they were the ones I made most of the mistakes in, especially Kavachi Aftermath, and I got better in Origin of the Mages Guild and I got better in the Elder Council. So again, slow improvement there across from mod to mod to mod. As a general rule though, you wouldn't see many issues because I tend to copy and then edit the copy, so there isn't a file being edited that could conflict because my copy is unique to my mod and it isn't available to any other mod. That's how I avoid conflicts for the most part. See you in the next one.